been a few days. I just woke up and I am tired. Whew, but we got some special things, you guys. Check this out. First off, we got our cable mod. Not cable mod, I'm sorry. This is an N-sourced. So this is the dark gray version. I was expecting it to be a little bit more like silvery, but it's a lot more brownish than I was expecting. But I'm glad that I actually got this because this is going to be going to our little deck that we have here. It's going to be going on top of our subwoofer there. We got the computer kind of taken apart. It's all zoomed in. There we go. But I was considering getting some custom cables, and I was like, you know what? I think it'd be good to have one that is just sort of super neutral. I don't know about black, but we'll have to see. But I don't know. I don't know if I want this color anymore for the inside. We'll have to check it out. Oh yeah, and while I was taking off the side panel, I noticed we were missing a thumb screw. We're supposed to have 4 of them, one on each corner of the glass part there, and one was missing. I don't know how that came off. But we got a few things to do now that we've replaced the Be Quiet fans. Holy cow, those things are freaking amazing, you guys. There's some up there too. I don't know if you can really see them. But we also have to find the right cables. We have to get the 6-pin extension right there. That is not a cable, that is an extension. So I'm going to have to find a 6-pin cable in there and plug it all in and jam it all in there. That cable alone isn't quite going to reach all the way around from the front of the power supply. And we also need that little audio connector there. I don't know if you can see that. I'm trying my hardest. This focus is not the best. But there's a little audio connector. Got to find the cable for that inside here. It might even be the one that actually plugs into the bottom of the motherboard. Honestly, I'm not sure. But I'm going to have to do that as well as install my good old Kraken X61 liquid cooler. We're going to slap it right on the front here and see how she performs. So I've been moving and configuring cables for quite a while now. We got all the cables run through the little hole I made in the back here. They actually fit pretty well. I don't know if you can really see that, but the cables are kind of taking it up. But they do fit through there. And the 6-pin, like the actual end of the plug, like this, I was worried wasn't actually going to fit through there. Did you see that? It just focused on it and then did. Okay. I was worried that like, this thickness wouldn't fit through there, but it actually fit pretty well. So that's good. And that allows, like, once this bulk of the connector is through, these cables are like easy to fit through with the other audio cable. I think the audio cable should be reaching. It should be pretty good to reach that far. Now my problem is, okay, I want to install my Kraken X61. And this kind of has an interesting layout, this case. So basically, we have this whole front area where there's fans, and normally the fans are installed on this side, so they have just enough depth. Like, I'll give my fan here. You can see that they fit just like that. Like, they're pretty much level with the outside panel here, and they fit right in there. Problem is, you can do that, but if you want to install a radiator, if you want it on this side, then it's going to have to, you can unscrew this plate. Problem with that is, ignore my sound dampening foam here, but there are hard drives under there that cannot be moved. Basically, if you install a radiator on this side, you have no chance to install any of the drive mounts up here or down underneath. You cannot use any of the 3.5-inch drive mounts, which is pretty insane, if you think about it. One day I want to get rid of my hard drives, but SSDs are just still a little too expensive, even for some cheap ones. So I'm waiting for a fairly cheaper one, and I'm going to upgrade to all SSDs one day. But for now, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to try to fit the radiator on this side, on the inside, because we do have enough room down here that it can easily fit. My only problem is I'm worried about the top, because with a fan, it just fits there. But with the radiator, it has a little bit of a extra bulge on each side for the water to flow between, you know, all the fins and stuff. So I'm going to try to install the radiator on this side, put the fans on this side. Everything should look pretty good. Now my problem is I gotta get this gigantic air cooler off. I mean, this thing is great. I love it, but it's just, it doesn't cool enough, and it really sucks. I really want to keep it, but it just kind of sucks. I cannot overclock. So here's the thing. You can see this amount of space. I can't even fit my finger through between the graphics card and this. So I have to somehow reach behind here, and the RAM too, and like unclip the graphics card, pull that guy out, and then somehow undo all the RAM and use the tiny wrench they give you to undo all the screws on here. I might have to take out the entire motherboard. I might have to just disassemble my entire computer, man. Ugh. By the way, the anti-vibration mounts, which are right here on the Be Quiet Silent Wings 3 fans, the new ones. Oh my gosh, will you just focus, please? Come on. There you go. Okay. Sorry. Those are the anti-vibration mounts. They basically use a pin to hold them in. But, man, like, these fans are so quiet enough, and the vibrations don't really matter. I seriously suggest using the ones that you can screw into. Just use a normal screw. My gosh, so much easier. I really wish they would have went with the implementation that Fractal Design Venturi fans use. But you have one right over here. They have a little rubber, like this whole thing is rubber, and you literally just kind of pinch it. Oop, hard with one hand. But you just kind of pinch it, and it falls right off, and then you can... this is entirely really squishy, nice rubber, and you can totally just uninstall, you know. And they even give you mounts for 120 mounts, even though it's a 140 millimeter fan, which is pretty sweet. I really wish they would have gone for that implementation instead of this complicated switching and clicking and having to use a tiny little screwdriver to unplug it. Oh man, it's hard. Okay, but anyways, I'm gonna try my best to undo the RAM, and maybe I'll have to take off the fan and kind of see like what the best way to do all this is. Sorry about the focusing. I wish this would just autofocus, but it's terrible when it does. It does not autofocus like at all. It just keeps... Oh, it's terrible. Okay, be right back. Oh, also, one more thing. They have, the graphics cards, Asus graphics cards, actually have, if you can see right there, there are two little fan ports right there, and I've been wanting to try those out, so I think I'm going to do that for the radiator fans here. You know, it's actually controlling the CPU temperature, but the CPU temperature should be pretty, you know, pretty fine, and if the graphics card's under load enough, then those should be as well, so we'll see what happens. She's empty. Okay guys, here is the bare system. Holy cow. Was that freaking difficult to take apart, man. You would not believe that. So I had to like undo the fan, and because the fan on this thing is actually attached to the other fan, they're like literally the same plug. I had to like set the fan on top of the heatsink and like jimmy the freaking RAM out, and the RAM was like just against the back of the card, the graphics card here, so I had to like pull the top side out, and it made some weird noises and I was scared. I had to do that on both sides. That side was actually a lot easier because there wasn't a fan there, but I had to do that, and I had to like reach in there with this tiny little wrench, wherever that is, I don't know, and like undo these little bolts that were on the sides here, and then like kind of carefully hold up. That's why you can see there's lots of thermal paste that just kind of got spread all around, like down there and stuff. And here is the heatsink. This is my Darkrog Pro 3. Beautiful cooler, amazing, and seriously, really good looking. Look at that. It just, I love this like deep metal. Reminds me of, if you ever had Bionicles when you were a kid, Makuta. Oh my gosh, I love that color, and that is right here. So there we go. Otherwise, though, something to admit, you guys. This is serious right now. This motherboard, if you've ever taken a look at my parts list, this motherboard is what's called an eATX form factor. So ATX is the standard layout, but E means extended, and it's not extended vertically, it's extended horizontally. And that's a problem because this case only supports ATX motherboards. So you might notice, if you look really closely, oh, come on, focus, there we go, that this part actually bows out on this side and kind of sinks in for the motherboard tray. And you might also notice, if you're vigilant, the board kind of goes out the further along it goes here. Yeah, this board has been mounted without the whole right side having screws this entire time. Yep, I'm admitting it. You know, I actually looked up the specs list. I was like, wait, I don't know if this case actually supports eATX. And right before I bought it, I looked up the specs, just did a quick Google search. Does N2Evolve ATX support eATX motherboards? And then someone in the forums list said they did, because I couldn't find it on the actual manufacturer's website. They didn't have the form factors, which was strange. Holy cow. So I figured that out really late into the game, and holy cow, have I been stressing about that. But hey, it's been working fine. I haven't put too much pressure to push it back, or else I'd be bending the motherboard, and in that case I'd be a lot more scared. Also, this motherboard has a little bit of a back plate, if you can tell. You can see sort of like a second layer behind the motherboard there. That's where the lighting comes from. If that wasn't there, this would be a lot easier to fit in there, and if I took out these rubber grommets too, but I found out the rubber grommets really don't make that big of a difference, kind of popping out there. But that's just something to note, and because of that, the graphics card wasn't necessarily notched in all the way, and you have to get it out, you have to take this switch and push it back, like this. That unlatches it so you can pull the graphics card out. And I could not do that, and you might have noticed that this thing is kind of dangling here. This actually goes right here. It says Republic of Gamers on it. It actually goes right there, and it's so close to that little switch that I literally, between the graphics card backplate, I couldn't even fit my fingernail to even touch this thing. I had to use like a screwdriver and an extension and push it back, and then I had to unscrew a bunch of screws on the motherboard, so it's kind of hanging on by just a couple screws right now, and I had to sort of like push the back in just enough so that it wasn't bowing this way but sort of flat, and then I had to undo that. So holy cow, that was insane. And I'm actually really considering, you might have noticed the PCI brackets down there have changed. I'm actually really considering moving my graphics card to this slot, just because I feel like in the grand scheme of things, look at this, we had a big heatsink up at the top, and we had the graphics card right below it, and then nothing down below, and nothing to the right side. It's just a big empty spot, and then all the components were crowded up there. Now, we're going to have a water block as opposed to a giant cooler now, so that's going to sort of, it's going to look good. The RAM is just all going to look good there. It's not going to necessarily be a big, bulky thing, but I'm considering moving it down there. There's rumors that it's going to have less performance, but you know what? I really want to do some testing to actually figure that thing out. So maybe we'll do that for another video, not today. And also, eventually I want to get an M.2, and this is going to fit right here, and that's going to be covered straight up by the graphics card. So we'll have to figure out, you know, exactly what to do about that. Other than that, though, I mean, that's pretty much all I want to do, except for I did test the fan headers on the front of this graphics card, and they turned the fans off. And so for these new graphics cards, basically the fans turn off until it hits like 60 or 70 degrees, and then it spins up so that it keeps the graphics card cool enough, but without, you know, by minimizing noise and power consumption, etc. And I found that really interesting because I was expecting the fan headers on here to just, you know, be blowing air even just slightly, but just kind of keeping the whole case cool, but it was turned off, strangely, so I don't know exactly how to control that. So I'm going to plug these into my fans into the motherboard and figure it out from there. Actually, we have a CPU and a CPU optical fan header right there that we can use, so I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to try and install my graphics card in the second slot, see what happens. It's still connected directly to the CPU. I mean, the CPU has enough lanes to fill out all of those PCI lanes right there, enough to support quad GPUs, so I think it should support one in the second slot, you know. But man, does that slot look freaking gorgeous. Those big 2011-3 sockets. Is that 2011-3? I don't know. X99 sockets, man. Freaking gorgeous. So my next step, I think, is going to be getting some cable extensions to sort of, you know, make everything look good, especially these guys, the graphics card ones, coming up to about here. That's my next goal, but I also need to get a new power supply for that. I wanted to upgrade to about 1,000 watts so I can have ample coverage for all my hard drives and everything like that, and multiple graphics cards in the future, because I have some pretty big plans, you guys, for what to do with this guy in the future. So I've been talking long enough. I'm going to go ahead and slap together all the rest of the things, and we'll be back. It's been a half hour, and I've attached one fan to the radiator. to the case. I've literally had to completely dismantle this entire case and like everything and tip it on its side because, oh man, it was so hard to attach this freaking fan through this little metal plate into the radiator screw mounting holes. And like, hold on, this, I'm gonna do manual focus for the rest of this. So these little mounting holes that you can see right here, these are for the 140 millimeter fans right here and stuff. And as you can see on the 120, they actually have these little rails, sort of. So you can slide it up and down, put the screw wherever you want. But the 140s have these exact holes, and that one is for the other rail is down here, so it's not really applicable to this radiator. And it really is really annoying because there's not a way to attach both fans here. You know what, maybe I can make use of that actually, because here's the thing, the radiator mounting holes don't match up exactly with the case mounting holes. Now this mounting hole right here seems like it's in a good spot, but the screw mounting hole is actually just very slightly off to the point where I can't actually get in there, you know what I mean? And the other fan physically can't fit here. Like, there's literally, I can't even. Like, that's as good as it'll get, but it's not gonna make contact. I've even unscrewed this plate here, you can see my hard drive. I was considering attaching it. They have this little bracket here. I wish I could zoom out more, but they have this little bracket you can attach it to. But the problem is, it's not going to contact with anything because the whole mounting holes are actually this way, a little towards the front of the case, so it's not going to make contact with this or the RAM or anything. But the problem is the thickness. So imagine a fan. The radiator is just as thick as the fan. So imagine two fans out here. Look at that. That's covering up most of the CPU socket already, up and down the entire way here, and it's just very strange. And sorry, the camera battery died right there. Basically what I'm trying to say is I don't know what the crap I'm going to be doing right now. I could go with one fan attached to the radiator. It's really weird. And then maybe I can attach one fan up here to put air into the CPU cooler and stuff. Or, I mean, not the CPU cooler. I mean, like, the whole area here. The motherboard, the graphics card, everything like that. And just have one fan cooling radiator. I mean, it'll work, but it's not ideal. And I don't know how much heat this thing is going to generate. You know what I mean? I honestly don't know what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to leave this for a part 2. So, thank you guys so much for watching today. I don't know if I'm even in focus whatsoever, but hey, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.